Hey, baseball fans, it's David Swor along with DJ Cox. We're back here for our baseball podcast called Frenemies. Our last podcast was a lively one. If you haven't seen it, you'll want to check that out. That was the Oakland A's. And as usual, I was right and DJ was wrong. So,
Well,
go ahead.
Well, we did not agree with the A's, but I think we're going to agree on this one.
We are going to agree on this one. So we're going to talk today about the San Francisco Giants, one of the most storied franchises in history. They have an awesome recent history that I think gets overlooked sometimes. At least I overlooked it. Several World Series championships in recent memory. But I think it's going to be a while for the next one, DJ. A long while.
Yeah, I could not agree more, man. This is going to be a rough year for the Giants. It's been some rough years for the Giants recently, and yuck.
Yeah. So let's talk about the 2019 Giants. Tell us what happened.
77-85, third place in the NL West. Weak offensive numbers as a team. 21 home runs by Yaz and Kevin Pillar led the team, and Kevin Pillar had 87 ribbies to lead that team. What a stud year from him. No starting pitchers whatsoever had a winning record. Mad Bum was 9-9 with a 3.90 ERA. Yuck. To be honest with you, David, that the miracle that they put a third place finish last year was kind of surprising. I really felt that the Padres and Rockies both were better than this team on paper, and somehow Bruce Bochy in his last year coaching got 77 wins out of this team. And, man, what a way to go out for him. To be honest with you, with a team like that, he almost made them 500, David, and that's pretty impressive. And Hall of Fame manager, nobody can doubt that with the way he managed the Padres teams, led them to a World Series. He led the Padres to a World Series, David, and he won 3 with the Giants. So got to give him love in his final year. That's the recap highlight to me, is to give Bruce Bochy his love. The man has a gigantic head. He wears like an 8 2/3 hat, and you kind of understand why, because he's got a lot going on in that brain baseball wise. So his head just blew up, monster head. So what a great manager, one of the best. You could probably put him top 10, top 15 of all time, to be honest with you.
Easily.
What an outstanding end to that career. He should get a lot of credit for leading this team to as many wins as they got last year and finishing in third place. So what do you think?
We've talked about some wizards, and this is the prince of wizards. I truly believe that. Like I said, he doesn't get much love because he's a West Coast guy, but for him to win 77 games with this team is a straight-up miracle. And if I was a team that was on the cusp and needed a manager, I would get on my hands and knees and crawl to wherever he was and pay him whatever it took, because he is one of the best, if not the best. I mean, you can make that call, man. I think he's been in, if I'm not mistaken, 5 World Series. Is that right, DJ? It's something like that. And like I said, for him to win 77 games, again, we're East Coast guys. And so, I just never followed the Giants that much, just to be honest with you, other than when Barry Bonds played and was hitting all those home runs. And so I honestly couldn't name very many guys off this team, but I had no idea, DJ, that it was so bad. And I told you this off the air before the last podcast. I think this is going to be the toughest team that we do thus far anyway. I don't know what the Orioles are going to hold for us, but this is a boring team. There's hardly anything to love about it. And so I'm going to throw you a pitch here. What's the biggest strength of this terrible team?
So it's got to be Yaz, right? I mean, young stud coming up last year.
He's not even young. He's not young. That's the problem. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I interrupted you.
No, that's okay. How old is he?
He's 29.
Is he 29?
Yeah, he was a journeyman player. He kind of came out of nowhere last year. He's 29 years old. DJ, this is the oldest team in baseball. The oldest team in baseball with a terrible farm. Not a terrible. They got a good farm system, but it's all 2 or 3 years away. What's in their farm? But yeah, Yaz had a great year last year. I could understand that. He's got a great history, obviously. Comes from baseball pedigree. So I think any baseball fan can root for him. We've talked about that. I like legacy guys. And he did have a good year last year. But I interrupted you. Go ahead, DJ.
No, you're totally fine. I did not know he was that old to be. I knew he wasn't like raw, completely 21, 22 kind of guy. I knew he'd been in the minors for a little while there, but I would have never guessed 29. So that kind of, I mean, he's still going to be good for a few more years. There's no doubt. He had 21 bombs, 55 ribbies in only 107 games last year, 334 on base percentage. Man, when I look at this lineup, David, I'm telling you, man, I just, Brandon Crawford is a gamer. He's a good player. But, I mean, other than that, holy smokes.
It's awful.
It's terrible, David. And the pitching, I don't really even want to talk about any of those guys, the bullpen. So I'm just going to go Yaz as their strength. He's their, I don't know, is he their best player? I don't know. What do you think? Is he their best player? Gotta be, right?
Yeah, Posey's not playing. He was interesting. But yeah, I mean, you look down through here, and they got Evan Longoria. Evan Longoria, he's still a pretty decent player, but definitely long in the tooth. I mean, I guess it's fun to watch the Panda run around a little bit every once in a while. Now that we're getting older.
That guy's like a gorilla now. You see how big he is?
He
Holy
is.
smokes.
So, hey, as an older guy who's got the spare tire going on, I can appreciate a fat guy playing some baseball. So that's interesting. But
you get a little more junk in that trunk as you get older, David.
Yeah, we're starting to get there. I'm wearing looser shirts now to kind of cover it up. But my working out days are over. I never want to do that again. But yeah, man, this team is boring. Billy Hamilton's one of their outfielders is going to start in the outfield. I guess Pence is going to be DHing. Those guys, have had their moments. Like I said, Brandon Crawford at shortstop. Brandon Belt's had a couple good years. It's just really sad. They kind of had a little bit of a dynasty going on, man. And I think one of the things that's going to hurt this team more than anything is now Gabe Kapler is their manager.
Oh.
Why would I have faith in Gabe Kapler?
Yuck.
Absolutely yuck. But more power to him. I mean, he ran the Phillies right in the ground his 1 year, had the team all fighting each other, and still managed to get a job somewhere. So, hey, and I'm sure Gabe Kapler's a nice guy. I don't mean to dog him, but he did a pretty terrible job last year with the Phillies, and the Phillies will be one of the most improved teams under Girardi. I put down for my strength, they do have Johnny Cueto and Jeff Samardzija. And while neither one of those guys are aces, Cueto used to be, and Samardzija can pitch you deep into games. And so hopefully trade deadline rolls around. Maybe they can offload those guys, get some interesting prospects. But other than that, I got nothing for a strength. DJ, talk about all their weaknesses, not just one, every one of them.
Okay, so this is where we can make this episode last for an hour and a half. No, man, on a serious note, there is a ton. And I'm going to start with Kapler. I mean, you go from one of the best managers of all time, and you made a point that it could be the best of all time, and you go to a clown like Gabe Kapler. Whew! And you're going to try to rebuild. This team's rebuilding. There's no doubt about it. So maybe that's a spot he needs to be in, and driving a team that's playoff bound like the Phillies. And just go to a team that's completely rebuilding and see what you can do. maybe this is the best thing for Gabe Kapler. I don't know. I talked about this already when we talked about the Phillies, but not a fan. I think it's definitely a weakness for them. And, I mean, you just mentioned his name too. No Buster Posey this year. No leadership, no superstar, no face of the franchise. I mean, that's the guy when you think of the Giants. It's now that Bumgarner's off the team, it's got to be Posey. And, he's winding down in his career. He's caught 3 World Series titles, which is unbelievable. What an absolute stud. I mean, if you got a catcher like Buster Posey, you're in great shape. And he would have done well this year too. He would have been at least made the Giants somewhat watchable when you can look out there and see Yaz and Posey and a couple other guys out there playing, and would have made him somewhat interesting. But now that he's not playing this year, that's definitely a weakness for him, and they've got some catching battles going on because of it. But I don't know. I got to go with that. So that's what I'm going to throw out there. What about you?
Yeah, man. Aging roster, again, the oldest in baseball. And here's the real problem. They're not just rebuilding. I mean, if you're building a house, they haven't even poured the foundation yet. They don't have any prospects, and we'll talk about this more. None, literally none, that are within a year away. None that are interesting. All their prospects, they have a top 15 farm system. They're all 2022, 2023 arrivals, which, with prospects, you know how it is. That's like flipping a coin. Who knows, if they're actually going to make it or not. Their pitching's awful. Their starting rotation's awful. I mean, they got Drew Smiley in there. I think he had a 6 ERA last year. They do have a interesting prospect that's going to pitch for them this year, Logan Webb. But how discouraging if you're one of their pitchers, knowing that you have one of the oldest infields in the league behind you trying to catch the ball. I mean, it's just so bad. Kevin Gossman, he could be interesting, I guess, but he had a really bad year last year as well. Their bullpen is a disaster. I guess Tony Watson is going to close. They like Trevor Gott real well, had a decent year last year, but other than that, man, I don't even know who these guys are. You look at their ERAs and stuff from the year before, none of them, stand out. I could keep going. They lost the best manager in baseball, one of the best managers in baseball, replaced him with a clown. Like I said, I could just keep going on and on and on and on. The whole team is a weakness. And the thing that drives me crazy, they're in an awesome baseball town. I know we're going to talk about it. I love their stadium. One of the places I definitely want to go. I've never been there. I'll let that cat out of the bag. Maybe you have. We'll talk about it. It's awesome. I love McCovey Cove. One of the most historic teams, with McCovey and Willie Mays and Barry Bonds, all these guys. It is just a crying shame that the dynasty had to end this way with your star player this year might be Hunter Pence. It's a travesty, man. I hate it. And like I said, I'm not a huge Giants fan, but I like it when they're relevant. They're cool. It's a cool team. It's a cool place.
Yeah, and I'm wearing this hat for a reason. Love the Dodgers after the Cubs, and you're right about that, man. It's a lot of fun when the Giants are good and the Dodgers and Giants are going at it. That is a fun rivalry. That is a lot of fun to watch. And it's just not – the Dodgers are going to mop them up almost every time they play this year because they're so bad. And, I don't really like that for the rivalry. I do like the Dodgers are going to beat them a lot. But like you said, man, when the Giants are good, baseball is better. This is a franchise that's got to be good, and they're not even close. And they're not going to be close unless they just start massively bringing in free agents and making trades that bring in guys. If they don't start doing that, then this is a rebuild that's going to last for a long time. And what a shame for that fan base. That's one of the best in baseball, to be honest with you. It's up there. It's up there, no doubt. Top 10 fan base, top 8 maybe, if you think about it a little closer. But these guys bring a lot of fans in even when they're bad. And it's a shame, man. There's just not much to sugarcoat with this team for sure.
Nope. So let's talk about their farm system. What prospect interests you?
So now that Posey's out, I'm gonna go Joey Bart. Okay. So he's in a battle, and this is another thing too, is the catching position just flew wide open, obviously, and Tyler Heineman, Rob Brantley, these guys, Trump and Joey Bart, 4 guys going for starting spot, and they don't really, know who's going to get it yet. I don't think they probably got it in mind now since we're about a week away, but I haven't heard who's going to start. But I'd go with the young rookie. I mean, why not? I mean, he seems like everything that I've read about him and seen from him, he's a good catcher, and if they get him and he can develop and take over for Posey, because let's just be honest, Posey's gonna have to start thinking about DHing a little bit more, maybe playing some first a little bit as he's starting to wind down here, and you're gonna need a catcher. So if Bart's the guy, then they can lock him down for the next 10 years at catcher. That'd be nice. And the Giants are very, very high on this guy, and from everything I'm reading, he's coming up this year. So, and especially now, I mean, I think some of the things I read were before Posey even opted out, and now that he has, I mean, why not? Let's see what he's got and see if he can take over for Buster and be the guy. So I'm going to go with him. What about you?
Yeah, I was going to go that direction as well. Now, here's what is a head scratcher to me. How is he not penciled in as the starter? I didn't read anything that said he was the starter this year. So I don't know if they're wanting to just kind of hold him back due to service clock issues. They know this team's just a dumpster fire, and they're just going to kind of let it play out. But I'm like you, man. If I'm a Giants fan, I want to have something to be interested in. And he is an interesting player, a former ACC Player of the Year, first-round pick from a couple years back. They say he's got Gold Glove caliber defense, and he's got power. And so I'd like to see him bring him up, but honestly, it doesn't look like that's a clear-cut thing to happen, and I don't understand that. Another guy that is a little bit interesting is Mauricio Dubon, who came over from Milwaukee in the Pomerantz trade. And, I think he's a bat-first type of guy. He at least gives you something interesting. He hit a little bit when he got a play last year. He, I think, is rated as like their 6th best prospect. And that's kind of sad because, really his profile, he probably profiles best as a utility guy. But, that was a good trade for them to get something useful out of Pomerantz. And how about Pomerantz? Terrible with the Giants last year. Awful.
Yeah.
To be in like key guy down the stretch for the Brew Crew. So anyway, it's going to be interesting to see how quick Bart comes up. I'm like you. I'd like to see him, sooner rather than later.
You mentioned Dubon, David. Dubon, I got penciled in as the second baseman for this team. You've been seeing that too, or no?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. He's going to start. And like I said, he's interesting. That was a good pickup for them, I think.
Yeah, that's something to look forward to. We'll see what he does.
Yeah. So DJ, you're usually really good about having these guys in front of you. What players did they lose last year, and who do you think is going to hurt them the worst?
So Will Smith was an absolute man in the bullpen last year. 34 saves, 6-0 record, 2.76 ERA. And they lost Madison Bumgarner. They lost Kevin Pillar, Stephen Vaught, Scooter Gennett, Kyle Bearclaw. Will Smith is awesome, and we talked about this already. But I don't know if this team needs a closer. It's kind of – so I'm going to go Bumgarner as their biggest loss just because, he went to the D-backs now, and, man, are they getting so much better, the Diamondbacks, I think. And he's going to be a gamer. He's going to be good. Maybe he's not going to be as great as he was, but I'll tell you what, David. They lost that guy, and the San Francisco Giants fan base owes a lot to Madison Bumgarner, and they're probably heartbroken to see him go. We watched
Sure.
this guy pitch in the World Series like everyone who's a coach would want their pitcher to pitch. Give me the ball. He'll make his start in game 1, game 4, game 7. He'd come in relief. That man threw so much for the Giants to win those World Series titles, man. More above and beyond what any other pitcher normally does. And he came in on all that short rest in relief or on 3 days rest to start again just to win the World Series, man. And anybody who's a gamer like that and ends up winning and sacrifices their health a little bit for that, man. Like I said, I don't like the Giants at all, and I'm not a Madison Bumgarner fan. I don't really like him, but I got to respect him and what he did for the Giants, man. Wow, was he unbelievable during those World Series runs, and they're going to miss him by far the most out of everybody.
So I've been looking at those teams that won the World Series, man, and that's one thing you can say about them. They had a ton of gamers on that team. Bumgarner, Posey. Man, remember when Matt Cain was a stud? And he kind of emptied the tank too, man. He kind of put it all out there, and he's been gone since. Tim Lincecum, man, you forget about how great he was, and he kind of fell off the map too. And then you got Bruce Bochy as the manager, and even guys like Brandon Belt. Brandon Belt, man, he had some nice seasons. Now, he wasn't like a superstar, but definitely a gamer, man, and you hate to see that. Man, if I'm a Giants fan, I'm just hating the fact that these guys are gone, and there's really nothing behind any of them. But I agree with you, man. Will Smith, Bumgarner, 2 big losses. But with the position they're in, they didn't really need either one of them, honestly. It was more, especially in Bumgarner's case, it was just more about the legacy. You just hate to see it go.
What do you think, David? What do you think about Bumgarner? Let's talk about him just for a second here. Do you think he's deserving of the big money the Diamondbacks gave him? Do you think he's got some stuff left in the tank, or how do you feel about him?
I've always been suspicious of Bumgarner, just to be honest with you, mainly because I hate his wind-up and arm action as a pitcher. It's stiff, but the stats don't lie. The stats don't lie. Even last year in a down season, 9-9 with a 3.90, and let's face it, I don't know for sure, but I'm going to bet that team was terrible on defense. They're old. They're slow. The year before that, 3.26 ERA. The year before that, 3.32. So, I'm not blaming the Diamondbacks for that signing, just to be honest with you. The Diamondbacks are kind of on the cusp of making some noise. I think Bumgarner still, maybe he's not an ace, but he's probably still a pretty solid number 2 or 3. And so I'm not hating on that move at all.
Man, just looking at it here, he's just now hitting his 30-year-old season. I would have never guessed he was still this young, David. And I think a lot of the reason why is he started when he was 19.
Yeah.
So, he came up in 2009, but he was only 19 years old, and I forgot that. I would have honestly bet he was like 34 right now, to be honest with you, and he's not even 30. So, whew, okay. Well, that makes, just seeing that right now, that makes it a little bit different for me. And, there's a lot of miles on that arm, though, let's be honest, okay? He's not I don't know if that's a normal 30-year-old arm based off of all the mileage it's got on it. Let's just say that, I guess, maybe. But he's still realistically could pitch another 10 years in the league until he's 40. And, Diamondbacks got a good player. Like you said, he doesn't have to be their ace, but maybe they're 2 or 3, and then they've made a great move. So we'll see.
Bumgarner's pitched 11 seasons. 3 of those 11 seasons, he was injured. The other one was his first season where they just brought him up and he pitched like 4 games. The other 7 seasons, 200 innings. He's a horse, man. And so that's, like I said, I'm not hating on that move. I'd love to have Bumgarner on my team. Like I said, I've always wondered about him. I've never seen a guy throw like he throws. But he's obviously an animal. He's a gamer. Here's a guy, if he could turn it back on and get some wins, he's got Hall of Fame credentials, man. 10 years is kind of your threshold. Well, he's had 7 seasons where he definitely dominated. 7 out of his 11 seasons, he was one of the best pitchers in baseball. several of those years with ERAs under 3. So, if Bumgarner could turn it back on, he could be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, he really could. And if he goes 9 solid years, you got to throw in the postseason numbers in too. You got to kind of factor that in, like we were talking about with Schilling earlier too. Is if this guy can go to the Diamondbacks and give them a few pretty solid seasons, and you pretty much, like you said, he's already on 7. You pretty much can just throw him right in there, no doubt, as one of the better lefties in the National League for a long time here in this decade and the decade before. So, good point.
Sure. Yeah, I love me some Mad Bum. All right, DJ. Best case scenario.
Okay, so wow, this was hard, man. I didn't know where to go here, and they're gonna be last place. I just feel that. I don't know, man. I don't know, because like you said, their prospects aren't close. They just brought back Hunter Pence, for what? I mean, really, let's be honest. I mean, I don't know where they're going. I don't know what they're doing. I guess if they finish out of the cellar, it'd be a good season for them, but I don't see them finishing above anybody. The Padres are young and intriguing and good. The Rockies got some studs on offense. The Dodgers are way too good, and the Diamondbacks are way too good. So I got them in the 5th spot. If they can get anywhere out of that, they don't have Bochy anymore, so I just don't see it happening, man. So
No,
I guess finish out of the cellar.
This team was over 500 in August. How in the world is that even possible? And I guess, again, it goes back to they still had some gamers on that team, some guys who just weren't going to cash it in, guys like Mad Bum, guys like Posey. It has to be what it is. It has to be. There's no way this team should even smell 500. They're not going to smell it this year. They're definitely going to be a last-place team. I don't think there's any way around it. Those other 2 teams that you just named are much better. If I'm a Giants fan, I'm just hoping my team's not the worst one. Seriously. In the whole league. I don't – I probably even like the Pirates better than them, man. That's a team I really struggled with when we did their team. It's just so bad. But the Giants are worse. The Pirates at least had some interesting players. We haven't done the Orioles yet. Maybe that'll be the team that could be worse than the Giants. But, worst case scenario, they're the worst team in baseball. And I think that's probably more likely than the best case scenario, to just be honest with you.
Good point. So worst case scenario too is you are the worst team in the National League and you start maybe losing your fan base a little bit, which is a definite strength of this team, is their fan base. And I would just hate to see them lose their fan base, man, because they're going through this. And it's got to be hard for a team like the Giants, historically in it almost every year, to go through this. And that would be a tragedy if they ended up losing this team, losing this fan base as far as that goes. That would be a terrible scenario. I just don't know, man. The worst case scenario, too, is that I don't know. I really don't, man. They're just bad. Just bad.
They're buried. They're buried for a while in that division, man. Because the teams that are there, like you said, the Padres for years have had one of the top farm systems. Now they've decided to open the checkbook. They're trying to win. The Diamondbacks, they got a ton of interesting players. And, like you said, the Rockies, they have some interesting players. There's nothing even interesting about this team. Nothing. And like you said, man, I hate to see it. I hate to see that fan base, one of the better ones in baseball, have to suffer through this. But I don't see them being competitive in a long time. A couple years, easy, before they're even competitive. So, it's just really, really sad. DJ, let's talk about their stadium a minute, man. Have you been there?
No, I've never been to Candlestick, which I don't think that was even very nice of a stadium at all. That was a dump. But Pac Bell, Oracle, whatever they call it now, wow. I've never been to that one either, but I'm with you, man. That's got to be up there with the ones that I haven't seen. Uh, Fenway being the one that I want to see the most, and I would say Oracle's number 2 on that list of the ones that I haven't seen.
Yeah.
This place looks awesome. And let me ask you this question, David. So let's just see what you would do. So you're out there. Would you get into McCovey Cove for a ball in that shark infested water?
Oh yeah, I'm in. I'm totally in. I think that would be one of the coolest stories ever, man. Is you jumped in the Covey Cove and got you a ball. And I guess that water's supposedly freezing cold too.
Yeah, it's freezing water from everything I've heard too. But man, it's so funny to watch all those people on those kayaks, man, jumping in the water. How fun is that, man? To hit one into McCovey Cove and they keep track of that. And you got that Coca-Cola bottle out there that's a giant kid slide. I'd probably go down it myself, man. And
Oh yeah.
so here's a question for you too. And I see this all the time, and I wonder if you could answer this for me. So in left field, they've got like these cartoon cars. Have you seen those on the wall there in left field? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't think.
No. So
Mm-mm.
they've got like cartoon cars, and they kind of like it looks like they're the wall. To be honest with you, like if you get a chance to look in left field, that I'm not sure. You know what I mean? Like it looks like the cars are like the wall, and I don't know if that's true or not, or if it's a illusion with my eyes or something. I don't know if they're plastered on the wall and there actually is a regular wall there, or if the wall is the cars. I don't know. It's definitely weird. It's weird looking. But I don't know. I'm really kind of interested to see if that's part of. Maybe we can try to figure that out later. But a lot of cool things to this, man. Like you said, there's a ton of fans at every game. They got that giant glove out there too. That would be cool to get some photos
Yeah.
with. Looks like a real kid-friendly park too. We talk about that, how cool that would be. Have the kids go and have some fun at the game too. And I love it right on the bay like that. Looks like a really cool field. Definitely easy on the eyes to look at, no doubt. It's a beauty, man. It really
Yeah.
is. And I still think that if I were to hit a ball into that right center field gap, that I can leg out a triple even at my age. So,
I hear you, man. I love what I love about that stadium is the history in it, and that's what I loved about Old Yankee Stadium. As bad as I hate the Red Sox, that's what I love about Fenway. That's what I love about Wrigley. But man, that field, I'm not sure how long it's been in existence. Not very long. I know there's at least 3 World Series there, maybe 4. I think they won in 2002, and that's probably about the time that park came around.
yeah, there's 4.
We got to see Barry Bonds break the home run record there. It was can't miss TV, man. Him launching the ball into that bay. Um, that's what I love about that park. There's a lot of good memories of watching games there and seeing a lot of history, and I love it. I love the old feel of it, like you said, the big Coke bottle and the signs everywhere. I just think it's a cool place, man. I'm with you. It's definitely probably in my top 3 of places I want to see. It's for me, it's up there with even the old ones, Wrigley and Fenway. I want to see this place just as bad, and I'm definitely gonna be camped out down there ready to jump in the cove.
I would absolutely love to have been out there when Bonds was hitting those balls in there,
Oh,
man. And could you imagine getting one of those Barry Bonds home runs, jumping in the shark infested, freezing cold waters like these knuckleheads do, and scooping that ball up? And oh man, I think that's so cool. And the look of that right field wall too is really cool, man. You talk about how, they got people on top of that thing, and people walking by the McCovey Cove, and just looks like a really cool spot for a baseball field. And that would be one of those things where you go to Northern California, you'd have to hit the dump that is Oakland, which we just talked about, and then
yeah.
you'd go over to that one, and you'd be like, wow, I mean, that's night and day as far as how close they are and the type of field that they both are.
Yep.
So cool, man. I agree with you 100% that's one of the ones that I definitely am looking forward to.
Absolutely. So, DJ, who's your favorite all-time Giant?
So, man, I gotta go Buster Posey. I love Buster Posey, man. I do. He's awesome. You know, he's just everything you could want from a catcher, man. I love the way he plays. I love everything about him. Just that's my guy for them, no doubt. He always has been. He's the man. There's no doubt about it. We've talked about him already, and I'm kind of bummed he's opting out because I love watching him play. We also think of a couple guys too. I think of Matt Williams from the old days.
Yeah.
Man, he can mash at third base for the old-time Giants. Kevin Mitchell was a lot of fun to watch. Hit a lot of bombs in left field for those teams. You always got to love Willie Mays. And man, I just can't do it with Barry Bonds. I was gonna go that direction. I just can't, man. I got that love-hate relationship with Bonds, and I wanted to make him my guy, but I just can't do it. You know how many MVPs Barry Bonds won? I know we haven't done trivia yet, but off the top of your head, do you know? Yeah, 7 MVP. I don't think there's anybody else who's won that many. I think he's got the most all time, right? That's got to be.
DJ, first, or we'll come back to Barry Bonds. I got to ask you this question. If his career ends today, is Buster Posey in the Hall?
Okay, so me and you actually have talked about this a little bit, and I thought he was on a Hall of Fame pace, but his numbers are not even close. When we looked at him, I was not even really that impressed with – I thought it was a lot better than it really is. You get the X factor with Posey, though. You get the catching and the defense is a lot of what he does. How he handles those stud pitchers and, you know, led all those guys to all those championships is a big part of what he does. And he was a great hitter, no doubt, but I don't know. What do you think?
He's got weird similarity scores, okay? So here's some of the guys he's similar to. Mike Lieberthal, Terry Steinbach, Thurman Munson, Benji Molina. You know, those guys aren't Hall of Famers. Having said that, he endured a pretty horrific injury. And I hate to penalize him for that because it definitely affected him. As soon as that happened, you can look at his stats. They immediately fell off. But I can't put him in the Hall of Fame, man. I just can't do it. Again, he's in the Hall of Good. He's a very likable player. He does a lot for the community. He's won several World Series. He's made a bunch of all-star teams. I just can't do it, man. I can't put him in. There's just a lot of guys, even a lot of catchers, that you can make the argument should be in before him. Your buddy Yachty, he should probably be there before Buster. I like him. I'm like you. I love the idea of it, but he's just not there, man.
No, and to be honest with you, before I looked at his stats, you kind of think Buster Posey, and you got to like go, little interesting. Let's see what we got here, and then you kind of look a little more into it, and you're like, ooh. And that was an awful injury, and it changed our game really. That the contact with catchers is gone now, and I don't know. How do you feel about that? Let's get into that a little bit. How do you feel about the game going away from takeout slides and running over the catchers? What do you feel about that rule?
I've always hated the run over the catcher. I've always hated it. I caught a little bit in high school, and that's not why I hated it, but I just throw that in there. I caught a little bit in high school. I think it's the biggest cheap shot in sports. I mean that sincerely. You've got a guy barreling down on a guy who is defenseless trying to catch a ball. And I hate those videos of Pete Rose leveling a guy. It's like, yeah, it's real macho to basically spear a guy at full speed while he's trying to catch a ball. I'm so glad that's out of the game. On the other hand, I don't mind takeout slides at second. And I know that seems like an oxymoron a little bit. And I don't think you should be malicious about it, but I think we've gotten ridiculous about it. I think breaking up a double play is part of the game. And so now, I've definitely seen calls go against teams on breaking up a double play. It's just a total judgment call. It depends on the umpire that's looking at it, I guess. You'll see guys maybe slide to the right a little bit, and they say, well, you weren't trying to get the bag, but you're kind of still within the box of it. And so I know that sounds like a pitiful, argument both ways, but I'm so glad that taking out a catcher is gone. What do you think about it?
I miss it. Catcher to me, those guys, they've got all that equipment on, and I get what you're saying, guys. The worst one I ever seen by far is I can't even remember the guy's name. It was the Marlins for sure that ran Posey over, and he was like a middle linebacker, how big he was and how fast he was going, and he just destroyed Posey's ankle. And I don't know, man. I missed that part of the game. Huh?
The pitcher, you run over my catcher, you're getting one in the ear. Not in the knee, not in the ribs, not in the back. You're getting one in the ear. Because, like I said, it's a huge cheap shot. And if you're going to run over my catcher, and I'm Aroldis Chapman, and I throw 103 miles an hour, don't whine at me when I'm throwing at your face. Because, you can ruin guys' career. It's the least macho thing in sports, in my opinion. It's a complete cheap shot. 100%.
But here's the thing, though, and a little bit of the reason why I think it should still be in the game is these catchers have all this gear on, and when they go and tag out a runner coming home, man, that hurts. I've been hit a ton by catchers with all that gear on, diving onto me. That hurts, man.
Do you think it's equal to a 230-pound guy blindsiding somebody? Come on.
Hey, they're dishing out the pain just as much, man. Those catchers dish out the pain just as much.
No.
They got all that gear on, David. You ever been hit by some of that stuff? You've been hit by a face mask in the face, or taking a knee guard to the groin and all that stuff, man.
But the difference is, I agree, that stuff hurts, but it's incidental. If I'm barreling down,
it is not incidental.
Let me take my face mask off and hit them in the face while I try to tag them out. Come on.
No, but they go at you hard on purpose. They lay you out, man. They go at you. There's no doubt about it.
It's for Bo Jackson to come running down the line and just smear a guy waiting on a ball. I think it's ridiculous, and it's ruined several people's career. It's shortened some careers. It's left guys with permanent injuries. I hate it. I've always hated it. And like I said, I never had any of my catchers get run over, but I'm telling you what, I would have had their back all the way. All the way. I think it's ridiculous.
So what if the guy's got the ball? Can you run him over if he has the ball already? What do you think of that rule?
Slide. You can't do it at first base. You can't do it at second base. You can't do it at third base. Why should you be able to do it at home?
Kind of can, though, man. These takeout slides still happen. These guys get cleated all the time at second. They've gotten rid of a lot of that too, man. I don't know.
There's a fine line at second. I don't agree with somebody, purposely taking somebody out, but I also am somewhat a believer in a hard slide. And like I said, I know that's an oxymoron a little bit, and we've seen malicious slides, but getting spiked is part of the game. That's another deal. As a pitcher, I'm going to have your back on that. If you're my shortstop and you get cleated hard like that, somebody's getting beamed. And Major League players are notoriously whiny. Can we agree on that? Mm-hmm. Some guy will take somebody out on a hard slide and then get beamed and charge the mound. Well, dude, I mean, what did you expect me to do? Just pretend it didn't happen? So, yeah, I I guess I'm somewhere in between on the takeout slides. I think sliding is an art. I would much rather see somebody try to hook slide than just you just ream my catcher any day of the week. I think it's takes more skill to do that. So that's my opinion of it. Take it or leave it.
These catchers, man, they dish out the pain too. You got to remember that, David. They dish it out too with all that gear on, man. They do. And I don't know. I see what you're saying, though, man. When Posey got ran over, and that's kind of what we're talking about. This is it changed his career. It really did. He hasn't been the same hitter since. I almost threw up, to be honest with you, when I saw his ankle flopping around and how hard he got hit. Man, that was just so bad, and it immediately made the whole game change, and everybody was like, "This is just so wrong." And at the time, you felt that too. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was like, "This has got to stop." So I give that to you. I was like, "This cannot be." Look what that's just unbelievable what happened to him. And I don't know. It's hard. It is hard. You can argue it, but I kind of miss the contact a little bit in baseball. I really do.
Let me ask you, in a different vein, in a different direction. Do you like seeing receivers get tattooed over the middle trying to catch a ball?
I do, as long as they've already touched the ball. Yes.
I think it's the ultimate cheap shot. I just think it's a cheap shot. I can tackle you just as easy, instead of helmet to helmet hitting you in the face and all that and watching you flop in the air like this. I just think it's crappy. I feel the same way with a catcher. I hate to see anybody defenseless, just getting smeared in any sport. I don't care what it is. I don't see how that benefits the game. It benefits the player. It just doesn't enhance it for me. I'm glad it's gone. I'm really, and like I said, they've gotten pretty wimpy about some stuff, and I don't agree with all that either. Like I said, but the second base slide, I don't agree with that either. I think that's part of the game.
Fair enough.
All
Agree
right,
to disagree.
So I hear you. My favorite Giant is Barry Bonds, and
okay.
I'm not big on his character. I always thought he was a jerk. I love to hate him like everybody else. But DJ, 13 top 10 MVP finishes. 13. His very last year, let me pull it up here. He led the league in walks and only struck out 54 times. I mean, how awesome is that? He was fun to watch, man. For whatever you thought about him, it was can't miss TV when he was launching those home runs into McCovey Cove. All-time home run leader, whether he cheated or whatever, 762 home runs. I like to watch Barry Bonds, and I'm not ashamed to admit he's my all-time favorite Giant.
I cannot disagree with you on that at all. I hate him as an individual. I think he's just an absolute idiot of a human being, to be honest with you. I just never really been a nice guy, to be honest. Just not nice. He really isn't. And
no, not at all.
And that factors in a little bit with the love-hate relationship that I got with him. But like you said, man, when he was going through that 2001 season, that statistically is the greatest thing that I've ever seen in my entire life. I mean, I cannot – those are video game numbers. I mean, 73 homers and 137 ribbies, and he walked 177 times. A 515 on base percentage, 863 slugging. Some of these numbers that he put up just were unbelievable, man, for many stretches of the game, for all those times. Wow, he was so much fun to watch, and it almost seemed like, if I was managing against him, I would never, ever pitch to him during those times where he was just killing the ball. I mean, I see why he led the league in walks 8 out of 10, 9 out of 12 seasons. People didn't want to mess with him. And
DJ, he only had one season where he struck out 100 times, and that was his rookie year.
Wow.
43-year-old Barry Bonds only struck out 54 times, had
Wow.
132 walks. And I remember, that's when all the steroid scandal was brewing and teams were afraid to touch him. I hated to see Barry Bonds to go out like that. I wanted to see more Barry Bonds. I would have loved to seen him aiming at the short porch at Yankee Stadium. He walked 232 times when he was 40. Just amazing, amazing player. I understand he's easy to hate, man. I can't deny that. He definitely had an attitude. But what fun, man. Those were some – I don't think we realized how well we had it growing up in baseball, in the steroid era, the era everybody talks about. But you had McGuire, you had Sosa, you had Bonds. Home runs were blowing up, and it made baseball fun.
I literally could do an hour show on Barry Bonds himself. I'm not kidding you. We really could talk about him for a long time. It would be a lot more fun than talking about the 2020 Giants. I'll tell you that much right now. But listen, David, this guy was intentionally walked 120 times in 2004. 120 times. That has to be a record all time. I don't know if it is or not. He definitely led the league that year for sure. He led the league in intentional walks 11 times in his career. Intentional walks. I mean, nobody wanted to mess with him, and why would they? This guy was intentionally walked 688 times in his career, which is a record. Nobody messed with him, man. And I'll tell you what, man, there were some times there where the Giants were in that 2002 team that made the World Series, the 2001 season where he put up video game numbers. Bases loaded, I'm walking him, David. Every time. Go for it.
How do you keep this guy out of the Hall of Fame, DJ? With all the warts, I don't care if you make him his own wing that is called the steroid wing, the Barry Bonds steroid wing. But for all the reasons that you just said, how can you leave this guy out of the Hall of Fame? It blows my mind.
Consequences for your actions, David.
So you would rather go to the Baseball Hall of Fame and read about above-average outfielder and forget about all of this. And, I agree there's consequences. I don't think the steroid part should be left out of it. I don't. I think there should be definitely a paragraph of everything he was involved in. Come on, man. What is interesting? What is not interesting about this? I just don't get it. I could care less that, Alan Trammell hit 185 homers. Big freaking deal. I want to read about the guy who broke the single season record, who broke the home run record, who got 13 top 10 MVP votes, who led the league in intentional walks 11 times. It's the Hall of Fame, the Hall of Famous people, and the best baseball player on the planet ever is not in it.
Second best to Babe Ruth.
Maybe.
No, you can definitely make an argument.
Pitched, maybe.
You could make an argument for him being the statistically best, but like I said, Babe Ruth's pitching puts him over the top with me. But
yeah,
man, I hate it, man. I really, really, really do hate it. I wish it never happened. Wish it was just tons of just doing it the right way, just lifting weights and getting strong like normal. It wasn't. I'll never come around on that. I won't.
Even if they had like their own wing or whatever, like the asterisk and all that crap, no. You're just forgetting about a whole era of baseball. And you're assuming you know every guy that didn't do it. We've already confirmed that there's steroid users in the Hall of Fame. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
And that's wrong.
I'll never understand your argument. Never. I get it. I'll just never understand it. Because you're okay letting Pudge in. He's in.
I'm not okay letting Pudge in.
And you have no way of knowing that Bagwell didn't use, or Biggio, or whoever else. You have no way of knowing. but the most famous player in a 20-year period, you're not going to let him in. It just blows my mind. It just blows my mind. I just don't get it.
I'm telling you, man. Do you think Barry Bonds hit 73 home runs without steroids?
No.
It's all fake, David.
I think he might hit 50. You just can't erase it, man. It's like the Civil War, okay? The Civil War, we know why they both fought and why it was wrong and why it was right, but you can't just pretend it didn't happen. It's the same way with this. It was wrong what he did. There's no doubt about it. But we can't just, hey, Devin, Barry Bonds didn't exist. Don't look at his stats. Don't look over there at that plaque. I mean, come on, man. He was the greatest. The greatest. He had the greatest statistical seasons ever. And like I said, say the reasons why. Say the reasons why he had the greatest statistical seasons ever. But don't just forget about it. That's what I don't understand about it. It's like baseball wants to just pretend. A lot of writers that era didn't exist. Well, it's a big part of history, a huge part of baseball history. And I just don't know how you can just pretend it didn't happen. I guess we'll just have to agree to disagree as usual.
Once again, I don't agree.
Okay. So, DJ, trivia time. What do you got me?
Give me the top 10 career home run leaders all time for the San Francisco Giants. Any Giants team.
Willie McCovey, Willie Mays, Barry Bonds, Jeff Kent. Running out of the big names already. Kevin Mitchell on the list? He wasn't there long enough, I don't think.
Right, he played with the Mets for a while.
Yeah. Will Clark? He played a long time. He wasn't really a home run hitter.
You got it.
He was in? Okay. Let's see. Rich Aurelia? No, I'm just kidding.
Probably up there, though. No, he's up there, though.
Really? That surprises me.
I'm sure he is.
Let's see here. Problem is you got to get in those older teams, and there's several Hall of Famers on those older teams.
Yeah.
I don't know. You'll have to give them to me.
So you got 5 of them. Got old Matty Williams.
I love that dude, man. I'm so glad you brought him up. Because to be honest with you, I kind of forgot about him. I love me some Matt Williams. I think the reason I forgot about him, he had some good years in Arizona too.
Mm-hmm. He did. He really did. Mel Ott. That's one of the Giants that is an absolute stud from the old-time days. Orlando Cepeda.
I should have got him.
Bobby Thompson, the shot heard around the world.
Yep. And
Bobby Bonds, Barry's dad. Also in the top 10. Pretty cool. He's number 8.
That is cool.
Yes, sir.
So my trivia question, I don't think you're going to get it. I'm bringing this trivia question up because of an unbelievable stat. Who is the first Giants Hall of Famer? The first person from the Giants elected to the Hall of Fame?
Christy Mathewson.
Nailed it. How did you get that? You saw that question, didn't you?
Nope.
Well, here's the unbelievable stat. 434 complete games.
Wow.
434 complete games. And I know that was a different era. The guys didn't throw as hard. There wasn't really relief pitching. 434 complete games. I looked at that and re-looked at it. I don't even remember how many shutouts he had, but it was a ton. It was a ton of shutouts. But, man, much respect, 434 complete games. That's amazing.
That's unheard of. It really is. Wow. That's a good one, man.
Yeah.
Good one.
Crazy. I
Once
never
again,
really researched him.
once again, David, trivia champion.
You're the champ. You are. I have to say, you must be looking at the same website I'm looking at for this question.
Just give me some love, man. I nailed that one. I was looking through the top 100 Giants players of all time, and I went across him. So, I mean, maybe that kind of triggered my answer tonight, but I nailed
You
it.
nailed it.
David.
You nailed it. I did. Yeah. I thought for sure there was no way you were getting that. So good job. I'll have to hand it to you on that one.
That's awesome.
Well, DJ, I've enjoyed it. I have to say I was dreading this episode because it was so boring, but the history saved us. I enjoyed getting to talk some Hall of Fame and Buster Posey and Barry Bonds and all that. So good episode.
So one more thing before we go here. The starting center fielder for this Giants team, Steven Duggar. So Nicole watches this Duggar's 19 kids and counting thing. Is he one of those kids? I don't know. What is this? Who is this guy?
I don't know either. I guess I never really thought about that. Maybe he's one of the 19 kids. I don't know.
Might be. He might be. Maybe that episode's coming up soon. Hey, one of our sons is a 2020 Giant. I don't know, man.
I'm requesting Nicole come on for the first 2 minutes of the next episode and explain to us how he might be related to the Duggars. So tell her we need to know.
That's a good one, no doubt, for sure, man.
All right, buddy. Well, let's wrap it up. What teams are we going to do next? Do we know?
We do not. Let's talk about that one in a few here, but we got to get rolling, man. We got some team. All
right.
Got much time left.
It's going to be tough.
It is. Tough. It is.
We can do it.
We can.
All right, buddy. Well, all you fans, share these videos. We for the 15th subscriber, DJ is going to take you to a Cubs game on him, complete with Chicago-style pizza. So we're going to find out who that was. We'll let you know.
You got it, man. I'm all over that.
All right, guys. We will see you next time on Frenemies.
All right. Take care, guys.